All right, cool. We're doing this candid here. We usually have like, I don't know, like 5 minutes of
Yeah,
prep
5 minutes
before
maybe
we.
catch up. But then we
Yeah,
typically say, hey, just hit record. So um, we just hit record. Here we are,
just keep
folks.
it rolling.
Yep.
Um, I know we want to get into a couple things that we were chatting about. Rand Fishkin did a little analysis from a recent article about like is Google search losing impression share and market share, and then this dead internet theory.
Yes.
Um, so we are going to talk about some like advertising and industry stuff, but I wanted to ask you about rucking because I know that was one thing that you mentioned on the previous pod, and
Yeah.
you're like, dude, save it for the pod. We'll talk about it there. So, what's the deal? What have you been up to?
So, typically I run anywhere between, I don't know, maybe like 12 miles a week running. I'm getting older and just want to see if I can do something that's not as high impact. I typically do about, well, for some years I've done 1,000 miles in a year, and I'm about 500 or so now. It's a lot of impact. So I think I was following like Tim Kennedy, or I've heard of rucking before, but Tim Kennedy had said something like, oh, I'm getting older, I'm going to try rucking and doing that. So the idea of rucking, for
That
people that don't,
inspired it.
yeah, it's kind of like, hey, let me give it a shot. Like, I got a backpack, I got some weights. So that's basically what it is. You go walk around with a weighted backpack. They recommend a backpack over a chest kind of vest, and just because better posture, supposedly. I've only done 2 rucks, so I'm no expert by any means. Um, but the first one I did was like an hour and 10 minutes. It's like 4 or 5 miles. I burned like 750 calories. Was it challenging?
Wait, how many miles?
It was like 4 to 5 miles.
Also, pull your mic away a little bit from your
There we
because
go.
it pops
That's
into.
how.
Oh, dude, way better. Yeah, way
Okay,
better.
cool.
It was bopping in there a little bit. So you did like 7 miles of rucking.
No, it was like 4 or 5 miles of rucking.
Okay.
The first time I did it, and yeah, let me just double check here. Let's see, where do I go?
How heavy was the pack too?
So it was pack was I put in 2 15-pound dumbbells, so 30 pounds, which by itself is a lot. It's like it's kind of
Solid.
it's solid. It's a solid amount. And so yeah, I did that, and yeah, the first ruck was 4.18 miles, 300 feet elevation gain in an hour and 10 minutes. And I didn't have my heart rate monitor on or anything like that, but this suggests burning 700 calories. Um, so typically I would have gone for a 7 mile run and burned probably like 1,000 calories. So three, less calories, but you basically get to build strength and endurance. For sure on the uphills, your heart rate would probably get into zone 3, maybe 2 or 3, but most of the time you're running at a 1 or a 2. So it's not, but it's still cardiovascular, but nothing too crazy. But man, you feel it way differently, like in your feet. Like what was sore was like, I've run a lot, but it was like my shins were a little sore and my feet were a little sore. And then of course shoulders, just because of the weight of the pack.
Interesting. And then did you buy an actual like ruck pack or you just like putting weight
No,
in your
I'm
backpack?
close. I'm close to doing that. I'd love to get a sponsor first, but no, I'm just joking. Um, yeah, so I did it again on Monday, and I only went like 2.67 miles for 45 minutes or so, and I burned like 443 calories, which is comparable to a run because I did a lot of elevation. I did like 300 elevation in that, so it was like 5,000 steps. Um, but no, I am in the market for one. There is 2 that I've been looking at. One is GoRuck, which is like the premier
I was gonna
brand
say go
that's
ruck.
been around.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
another one called Wild Gym.
Okay.
Um, I like their setup, and I'm leaning towards it. It's a little bit cheaper, but not just price point. But they have more of a vest that comes over, which it reminds me more of a running vest. So you've got a pocket for your phone, and you got a pocket for like water or hydration. Where GoRuck, you kind of need the bladder in the back, and there's nothing to hold on to. So like I always have my cell phone on me. So in this situation, I got to worry. Like I'd like to be able to secure that in there. Um, but
No
it would be
doubt.
nice to get a pack like that, especially because of the plates too, because that's how the weight that you would use is plates. They were using 2 15-pound dumbbells wrapped in a towel gets kind of uncomfortable. And the support of the backpack straps themselves, I could tell they're already kind of wearing out after doing it a
Could see
couple
that.
times. So I'm going to go out for tomorrow for a longer one, and then I'll probably pull the trigger on it. But I I'm a little bit more open to spending money on my health than anything else when it comes to purchases. Because it'll be a couple $100. And I think it's well worth it. But so far, like, dude, I felt pretty good. My back's felt pretty good. Um, I like it. I'm just a little bit concerned I'm not burning enough calories per se. But I could substitute that with other types of workouts. Like I played pickleball this week, and it's been a while. And we played for like 3 hours. So that made up any difference between. So
Nice.
yeah.
I was gonna say GoRuck would be probably a good brand. I think it's like a Navy SEAL as their founder. I know it's like a military founder there, and um, from the so it's I don't know. It's always nice when there's a cool founding story there, where you
Yeah.
could like support a brand like that. But yeah, my cousin got into rucking like a while ago, and that's how I
Oh
know
yeah.
about GoRuck. And I feel like it's been making a little resurgence here as of late. I don't know if you ever listened to Peter Attia at all. Ever
Mm-hmm.
come off across his content? Yeah,
Yeah.
he's really big into rucking there. He lives in Austin there, and he said him and his wife, they'll usually do a walk like once a day, like they'll just go for a walk after work. Um and he said he'll usually just have like a ruck pack on. Dude, I think he gets a little crazy and does like 50 to 75 pounds.
Wow.
But he said he's really big into rucking, and that's been an evolution over the past couple of years. It's just like an easy way to get a really good workout in where you're not like doing like weight training, but like you kind of are, like you're
Did you
obviously like
feel a lot of
stressing.
like those stability muscles that are in your
Yeah,
knees, your ankles? That I definitely can tell a difference in doing so. But yeah, like even if I go walk the dog, I think if I have a ruck pack that's built for it, and it's
yeah,
like, hey, just throw it on when I go walk the dog. You know,
and you're kind of
it's not
getting
like
that
you're gonna,
extra.
yeah, you're not gonna break out into a crazy sweat like you're going for a run, but you'll be doing something a little bit more.
I think that's cool. Plus, I think it's also I don't know. Sometimes like with running, you need to like really like plan that out and like get up for it. Whereas like you could just put a ruck pack on and just go out and get a really good workout, and it's I don't know, like a lower barrier to entry there almost to get a good workout in, which I think is kind of cool. But yeah, I think overall it makes a ton of sense. I feel like steps and walking have been a thing as of late. Like I just saw the founder of Whoop. He tweeted out, I think today or yesterday, that they added steps to Whoop tracking
Mm.
because of all the benefits and studies that are coming out about like try and hit your 10K goal, or 10K steps in a day. So yeah, I feel like this could be like a little trend here of like rucking becoming more popular as people like think about like getting steps in and getting away from their desk on the day to
Yeah,
day
I know one of the things they talk about doing is, or one of the benefits is like the social aspect of it because it is an exercise you can do and have a conversation
and still
with,
chat. Yeah,
depending on what you're doing. But it's like you
yeah,
can make
yeah.
it a more social thing. I was even telling some of my good friends, I'm like, dude, start with a walk and then put a backpack on with some weight, and dude, that could be your exercise. It's a very very easy entry point rather than going for a run, which can be very intimidating to do. Um, yeah,
No doubt.
so
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, I'll keep you posted though. So far, so good. You know, I'm excited
Sick.
to switch it up a little bit because the other idea I was joking around with my wife, like, um, the idea of riding a bike and cycling has come across my mind, but I'm like, dude, I'm pretty sure I'll get hit by a car, so I'm
It's
gonna be
pretty
good.
dangerous. No
I'm
doubt.
pretty
Yeah.
good. I'm
Yeah.
okay. Like the idea of going like super long distances and you still get a good workout and you get to see more. I'm like, no, dude, I don't get hit by cars almost all the time running. So add a bike to the situation and not so good.
I hate to say it. I feel like when you're biking for like years, it's bound to happen. Like I know a couple of people that are in it and either not like getting hit by a car, but like very high chance of like falling over and like breaking bones and stuff. Like that's not ideal.
Nah, I'm good. I'll pass.
Yeah. I think rucking's cool. Well, cool. Let me know. I got GoRuck pulled up right now. Yeah, definitely not cheap for. I mean, I think their cheapest ruck pack is like 115 bucks. Or no, yeah,
No,
115
it's
bucks.
yeah,
But
but you
that's
got to
just
buy
a
the
plate
plates.
carrier. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not
it's
even the actual
that is
plates.
a plate carrier. That's not even a ruck pack. It's very different. Wild Gym, they've got a setup right now. I think it's on back order, but it's like I think for a complete set with a 30-pound plate is like $300.
Yeah, I could see that.
And I like the design of it too. It's got like an aluminum frame in it. So, um, yeah, I'll let
All
you
right, I
know
got
because
both
I mean,
these pulled up. I'll check these out.
you buy good running shoes, they're going to be over $100. So, you buy some really nice ones, they're going to be $300. I haven't pulled the trigger on that, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's well
but this
worth
is
it though.
cool. Yeah. Cool. Well, I did I know we talked about the is Google losing search market share? Dude, I saw this article and it came out in the Wall Street Journal. And basically it was like Wall Street Journal, they also they source from eMarketer, basically saying that like Google's share of US search is expected to drop below 50% for the first time in 10 plus years. Um, and they basically make the claim as like AI rises and as TikTok rises, um, Google search is going to drop below 50% in 2025. So literally next year there. And Rand Fishkin put out a piece that kind of like debunked it there. So I want to maybe go through like a couple things that he put out. But but yeah, I think overall it was I want to say like clickbaity title, but definitely like a little clickbaity when you actually get
It's
to the details
100%
of what's going on here.
clickbaity. Totally clickbaity.
Well, let's get into it then. Let me share my screen because I want to at least I don't know, show a couple pieces that he had in here that I think would help give some context. So let me get that out of here. All right, so Rand put together this video here. Dude, I will say he does a pretty good job of like breaking down like I don't know, different topics that might be a little newsworthy or controversial or whatever. And he does a really good job of putting out content like this and then like spinning into like how he went about the research or potential solution and like puts in his product there. So he runs SparkToro, so you can go to like SparkToro blog and see this. But essentially he does this analysis and he's like, how I got this data was through our, our platform SparkToro and some of our like, clickstream partners there. He does a really good job of that. So it's like, hey, let's take advantage of like something that's could be controversial, could be timely, and then like put in his product and solution there without saying, hey, like go and sign up for a demo. Really smart tactic there. And I feel like kind of like some of the dark social stuff that we've talked about there, of like providing like a catchy headline and then throughout like your response and solution of your content, putting in like your product or service to be that solution. Really, really neat way how he does that.
Yeah, 100%, man. And he's got a sweet Van Gogh mustache setup going on too.
Dude, he's always got the
the
goatee or some look going on there.
Yeah.
Well, let me just make a couple call outs here just to kind of set the stage, and then I want to hear like your thoughts here. But essentially, main headline by next year, Google's drop or Google's share of search in United States specifically is going to drop below 50% for the first time in 10 plus years because of AI and TikTok. So again, like catchy, like headline, big kind of statement there. It was interesting because he doesn't have it in this image here, but if you watch the actual video, he kind of goes through like, hey, Google's share of search in the United States is like in 2022 was like 53%. And then last year it was like 51.5%. So like, or 52%. Like, so it's been teetering on that line.
Well, scroll down because I think you got that a bit wrong because it's US search ad revenue share. So scroll down, it's there. It's the red and black track. So it's like they're confusing search ad revenue with search volume or search presence.
Great call. Because it's literally like pretty much right here. So like the actual share of revenue in search, the percentage is going down, but it's a bit misleading there. So Google's revenue year over year and quarter over quarter continues to increase. And there's been tons of research that shows or like predicts the investment in advertising across the board will continue to increase for the next couple of years. And Rand kind of goes, he has a couple interesting call outs throughout. But he basically kind of ends it saying that like now in today's day and age, there are so many different players in the advertising space, specifically search advertising, that just wasn't, present 10, 15 years ago. So over time, Google's share, like the percentage of that revenue naturally is going to decrease because Bing's gained in popularity, but like obviously Amazon significantly has risen in their advertising search business. I mean, Walmart got into the game a couple years ago, Instacart, TikTok, Spotify. So like he basically makes the claim that if you look at the actual ad revenue data, there's just way more players in this space. So naturally, that percentage is going to decrease over time. But if you look at their actual revenue itself, it's increasing quarter over quarter and year over year on Google's part. It's just the fact that the kind of like percentage of that pie has decreased over time. So a bit like misleading there if you don't actually like dig in to see like what is
Yeah,
leading to that decrease in percentage.
I mean, what is the title of the New York Times or Wall Street Journal? What is the title again?
So the title is
I just want to make sure I'm not going crazy.
so eMarketer, Google's share of the US search ad market is expected to drop below 50% in 2025 for the first time in 10 plus years as Amazon, Apple, and others gain.
So yeah, I mean they do say search ad in the title of it, but I think people are going to, I don't know. I saw it and I thought they said like search share, especially if they're talking about AI and the other things too, which it's not what's going on here. Yes, they are losing some percentages of search, but they're making plenty of revenue. And for us as marketers, like I don't know if Google's not going to be the search engine people use. That could be a kind of a scary thought potentially, but there's Bing too. But yeah, I think it's completely misleading type of story.
And overall, like if you look at the actual percentage of search market share, I mean, from October 2023 to September 2024, Google's pretty much been at 90% this whole time. Um, so like
Yeah, we see
essentially
it in our
at,
campaign. We see it in our campaigns every day. Our clients' analytics. Google is still the freaking juggernaut of like 90% of the organic traffic coming in. Even on the paid side, when you run it,
yep,
you know you're going to have less share coming through there. So
no doubt.
we'd
And
be the first ones to see that change.
yes, that's that's very valid. And um, a couple of calls here that I thought were just like interesting. He did note here. So this is percentage of U.S. active search users who also use AI platforms. So essentially, it's stating, like kind of in like the United States in May of 2023, about 14% of users used both, and now it's like 17%. So like it didn't have a major shift thus far. Like specifically calling out like LLMs. Um, the average users searches per month currently sits at about 200 searches per month on Google, whereas ChatGPT is about 13 and a half and Perplexity is about 16.5%. He also kind of made the case that like, you know, TikTok's not there in terms of like generating some more search volume compared to Google. So like you can't really call out TikTok as an example. But interesting to see, you know, initial like kind of early days here with these LLMs rolling out that they don't get nearly as many searches per month. I will say though, Steve, I feel like this is going to change and this trend's going to continue where like it's still early days for ChatGPT, Perplexity, and some other LLM options where the searches per month are likely going to gain. I think what's interesting though is I think and I'll stop sharing here. I think the one thing that's interesting that I think is going to be a bit misleading in the data is Google's kind of grip on search. So what I mean by that is like, if you think about somebody, if you have a brand and you're going to go online, you're almost always going to go to Google. You know, like nobody ever types in a URL right away and goes directly to a site. You know, unless somebody sends a link, then you can obviously click on it and go to that site. But I feel like Google has such a grip on that where if you go to your search bar on mobile or desktop, it's almost a guarantee at this point it's going to like default to Google. So even if you have a brand in mind, even if you did that research within an LLM, you're likely going to then still go to Google search. So like I almost think Google has a bit of a, I don't know, advantage there or can skew the data in a sense. So like maybe you can get Google can take credit for search, but like they didn't actually influence that search if that made sense, you know? Like so I think there's going to be a longer term grip on search from Google's perspective because they kind of own that initial
action
when somebody goes to search online. It's just what everybody's used to at this point.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective because browsers back in the day, when you would go to your browser bar and you would search, say, Collective 42, you could only put in a website address. And then it would load google.com, and then you would search again. But right now, within Chrome, even like Safari on your phone, they have a kind of like mini search engine that's in that browser bar. So that's how people are using it to kind of pull in, right? So they're not going to that feature of like being able to search within the browser bar like a little search engine. It skips that step of like going to google.com. Safari's got their own engine, which is an interesting point for it all. That could steal it, but Android users have it on Chrome and it's interacted with Google. So it's probably a lot smaller percentage point. But I think a lot of people forget, like back in the day, like you weren't able to search in your browser bar. You had to put in the website you're looking for.
Yeah.
So I think that will influence this as well.
So I think that's one thing that's like I always think about in this whole. I mean, it's going to get interesting with like links included within LLMs and them linking out to other sources. But I do feel like there's going to be, unless there's some major update with like this antitrust lawsuit, where Google's kind of always going to dominate that like last final search. Like they're always going to have a grip on that, at least for a while.
I think for a long time, especially that antitrust law case, I was looking at that and like people were talking, dude, it's going to take years of litigation before they even decide to do something. So we still have some window here before anything
for sure
majorly shifts. Like, hey, Chrome's got to get dropped off or something like that, or Google Ads has got to get split off. So we've got a lot of time there. But it's like, it's that just that user behavior of like, what is someone searching in an LLM versus a search engine? I feel LLMs is more of a open-ended, longer tail types of questions about a scenario, where Google is going to be a little bit more direct as far as the behavior that you're searching for.
Yes.
It's that whole concept too of like, I guess maybe you could look at this and we could maybe pull some data of this eventually. I'm not sure what this looks like, but remember when before Amazon really got big, where would you go search for e-commerce products? It would be on Google. Right. And then all of a sudden, right. And then all of a sudden Amazon came out and everybody goes to Amazon to search. So it's like, how much search shopping did Amazon steal from Google? I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to look into that. But my point is that people still go to Google and search for e-commerce products.
No doubt.
That behavior did not break and completely shift over. I know Amazon's a little bit different per se, because it doesn't have all the brands on there, but you can find plenty of brands on there. So my point is that like, even if LMs still take a percentage of those searches, people are still going to be trained to use Google and go to it. So it's not like Google's going anywhere anytime soon.
It's like they just had like 15 years of conditioning everybody, and now that's just how it's done. Search is just done on that platform. It's wild.
Well, it's like, what do people say? Bing it? No, they say Google it. Right? It's like it's become an actual, whatever you call it, like Kleenex, right?
Yes, exactly.
So it's become synonymous with it. So they've really captured that itself. So I don't think we have too much to it. Sure, we got to be mindful about it and how things are going to emerge, for it. But I can't worry about something that's like 5-10 years out, because I do think we're at that stage. I thought it was going to be faster. Maybe last year you asked me that same questions and scenarios. I thought it was going to move quick. But then, I talk to my friends that are not in the same space as I am. Talk to my family members that are just like your normal people. Dude, they barely use LLMs or ChatGPT. They're like, oh, I got it on my Snapchat. That's kind of interesting. It's very rare. You'll get like the one rare guy at the party that's like, oh, I use ChatGPT all the time. Then you can talk to him about it. But like 90% of the people at the party are like, ChatGPT, okay, whatever. I don't really use it as a daily,
No doubt. So, yeah, I completely agree. I definitely don't think there's I definitely don't think there's never a world where maybe like LLMs do take over and eventually Google, isn't what it is today. I don't think that's crazy. But I do agree. If you asked me this last year, I probably would have said it would have moved much quicker. And the more I use LLMs, the more I use AI in general, I'm kind of getting to that point where like it's a really effective tool to help with research, to help with productivity, to help with certain things. But like when it comes to doing, like I'm just thinking like if I was looking for like an HR software or something like that for the business here, I
Right.
might be doing some like LLM research, like maybe, but I don't know. I'd probably still use Google because I still kind of want to like check out the site and get a feel for, the brand, maybe check out some reviews online. Again, that's not to say you can't use an LLM for that, but I do think there's a clear distinction between how you're going to use an LLM versus how you're using like Google search to like do some research there. And again, could that change? Sure, but I don't know. I kind of see a world where like surfacing links on Google or whatever platform always makes sense, and people are still going to want to like do some of their own research and check out things online. Whereas LLMs probably a different use case for your searching.
So maybe there's a way that Google is threatened um, by this. I think AI would be too because they're trained off the internet. And brings up the next concept. I love you to be able to explain it to people. Is the dead internet theory? Because we've touched base on this very early on in the podcast. But like, break down the dead internet theory, if you wouldn't mind.
All right, so just to I'll just show Wikipedia here. I don't know what this pop-up is. So essentially, dead internet theory. I just pulled this up on Wikipedia. It's an online conspiracy theory that asserts that due to coordinated and intentional effort, the internet now consists mainly of bot activity and automatically generated content manipulated by algorithmic curation to control the population and minimize organic human activity. Actually, like when I like had like thought or have talked to other people about the dead internet theory, I didn't realize there was like the control the population piece to this conspiracy theory,
I
but
had
can
no
totally
idea.
see that being a thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But reading this, so essentially it's like we're going to get to a point where AI is just taking over so much content creation online. There's so many bots that like all new, not all new, but like majority of new content that's put out online is AI generated. Majority of social media interactions are through bots, comments are through bots, interactions and likes are through bots and all that stuff. Dude, reading this, I kind of feel like we're like 50% of the way there already, or maybe a bit further, because you got to think there's probably so many people online that at this point, like famous people who've bought followings or, reading comments and stuff, you'd be like, all right, well, this is just utter nonsense. Like these are bot comments or NFT bot spam comments and
Google
stuff. Like
display traffic.
Google display traffic. Like we're kind of there in a way of a lot of activity online is already bots. But this kind of theory is basically like, hey, now that AI's here, the scale of this content is just going to be like astronomical. And it's just, there's going to be no more like original thought on the internet, essentially.
So I get the whole idea of like no original thought on the internet, no original thought to anything, but like this concept of like manipulation to control the population to minimize organic human activity. And they also say it's also intentionally to help manipulate algorithm, boost search results. That's like, hey, SEO guys. That's kind of that part in there. And then some proponents of the theory I'm looking at too accuse the government agencies of using bots to manipulate public perception. The public perception thing is interesting because you can, there has definitely been some of that. We've covered a little bit of it as far as you search certain people and you get kind of curated results. But is it fully intentional? Like, I'm not 100% sure. Like, why would you want to make it have minimum organic human activity? What's the motive? I'm maybe not seeing it.
I
I think
think,
it could be a
I think maybe
byproduct.
oh, no doubt. I think maybe the piece there would be kind of like, if you were like a government or whatever, and you were trying to like push a narrative for whatever reason, like to get a person elected, to like pass a piece of legislation.
I could see that.
Yeah, I could see like, hey, we need to put a narrative out here, and then we need a bunch of different publications online to create like positive content. So the perception's like, wow, a lot of people are talking about this piece of legislation. And then when people tweet about it online, all the comments are positive and reinforcing the narrative. So then it's all bots. Like I could see that piece being a thing and a tactic. I would assume it, is already in kind of in the works here. It seems like that's kind of already happened in our political system. That like there's, bot farms trying to push different narratives. That makes total sense.
Yeah, it makes sense from that motivation. I could see a motivation of like gaming the system to make money that can motivate people. But like that's purposely the other part, like purposely doing this to not have real organic activity. Like I think it's more of a byproduct. All these bots and spam that are out there doing these things that just makes the internet a world full of crap.
Yep. As opposed to like a major like organized effort.
Yeah, for sure. Because like Twitter is like that. Every platform
Yeah.
you go, like anything on the internet is probably full of a bunch of crap, anyways. And you
Yeah.
kind of have to filter through it, and you're not going to get everything right that it's a bot or not. Dude, I got the craziest ad on Temu. I don't even want to share it. It's so bad. I sent it to my guy thread that I have because I'm like, guys, what is this ad? I'll just gotta find it. It's like I don't know on Instagram. It's totally AI generated, dude. It doesn't make any sense. Have you ever seen those Temu ads?
Oh yeah.
God, I don't know if I actually saved it. Um, where was that? Yes, dude. I won't show the pictures. I don't think I can actually. But here, I'll show you real quick. Okay.
Oh wow.
This is on Instagram. Okay. First sight, you're like, I'm not sure what this is, right? Like, so I'm like, what am I getting ads for? And it says carousel ad. I didn't go to the end of the carousels, and it was like, okay, just here's the headline. This is all AI generated. I guarantee it. 360-degree surrounding style traceless strangulation. Okay, odd enough, but let me read you the subhead text here. Passes through the let's say private area for secondary fixation. Enhance
What?
the pleasure effect. Okay, so far you're kind of maybe leading into that route. Okay, but here's where it goes back into this is a completely weird AI and adjust the tightness of the root saw in actual size. Like a root saw is like a completely different application to what this device is saying it is at the beginning. I'm like, what is this? So I think, right here is like the ads are so garbage and mixed in that, and I don't even know how they allow this kind of stuff too. It's like
Also,
the
who's
algorithm.
spending money on that?
Well,
I
someone
feel like
finds something.
I've seen a couple ads like that on Twitter that's like, wow, this is utter nonsense. And it just doesn't even make sense. Like the image looks like all junky and yeah, I've definitely seen a couple of those where like,
That
yeah,
goes
this is
back
probably AI.
it goes back a little bit to our point that we had. I think it was last conversation, where it's like, can I just get a normal search engine search campaign, exactly the keywords I want? Like, I don't need all these fancy bells and whistles, especially on the social side, because you just don't know. It's like, hey, no, trust us. And it's like, I don't want to trust you because you just served me this ad and it doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like the platforms have gone too far with like the dynamic functionality and AI and stuff like that. Like you could probably get to a point in your, Meta account where when you go to the upload now, like they could literally just build a whole campaign for you, based off of like your website and just scan your website for some images, do some like AI generated images, AI generated like headlines and dynamic line or description lines. Dude, when you do the upload in Meta, they'll give you like recommendations for headlines and description lines. And I don't know what it is, but there's like this general tone where you just know it's AI written. Like there's certain words that are used and phrases that are used where it's like nobody actually talks like this, and it just sounds like nonsense. Like,
Yeah, I experienced a little bit of that with Bing campaigns. I created a couple and I was doing the ad copy, and it was like, oh, Copilot will create the ads copy for you, and the headlines were horrible. I actually used ChatGPT to make them, and then I kind of revised them a bit. Like, sure, I'm still using an AI to do it, but like out of the box, what this comes with, I'm like, this doesn't feel like I want to put that ad out there.
no, I do. I totally agree. So for like the whole like dead internet theory, I think it's interesting. Um, but yeah, I don't know how much like validity there is to it. And I think we've talked about this before. I do think there's probably going to be something though with search engines and their ability to crawl. Like think about how much more content is being put out there and produced. And how much like nonsense content's being produced by certain LLMs that are, doing like this programmatic SEO and these blogs and all this stuff. Like, I would assume that mucks up the internet somehow,
Dude, it
and
mucks up the internet horribly. I
it's
think that's
got
one
to
of the
be.
biggest things Google is concerned about is that and trying to figure out. They've almost kind of said, as long as it's pretty good and there's some human intervention, we'll figure it out because I'm sure they're going to use some other signals like backlink profile or web browser behavior to determine if it's actually true and we
Yeah.
should generate. So they're like, okay, we just had an influx of, 100% more into the index. Well, we could probably throttle it and filter it out based on link profile, web browser behavior, etc., and just ignore it potentially. But for sure, it mucks it up. What scares me is if the LLMs start training on the content. I mean, they're already doing it, training on the content that was built by an LLM, an older version, and it's like that snake eating the snake
Yeah.
scenario where like, and it's already happening, and you see it. So it's like, where does the original thought come in? That I think is going to be interesting. Is it LinkedIn for us where people are putting some, but a lot of that stuff is AI generated. You see all that too. Um,
Yeah.
Podcast, maybe that's probably a true place of raw input and creation, right? We're not scripted in this. We're just kind of flying off the handle. But of course, Google's got that, what is that, that notebook LLM that you can upload it files and it'll create a podcast. Have you
Oh
seen
yeah.
that shit?
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, don't go after podcasting. It sounds pretty decent, but it's like, oh, dude, don't do that because if the train's off of that and you're like, oh no, man, it's going to get after podcast. So I don't know. Maybe my rant is like podcast is maybe the last bastion of like original thought because I don't know if I trust anything that's written on the internet anymore. Um,
Yeah.
or even
For
scientific
sure.
papers. Maybe there's something there, but those have plenty of validity issues. Um, it, yeah, I don't know where that original thought is going to come up with anymore. Like, imagine if you're in college or maybe in high school, it's like, I don't know, even the concept that you can have something original might go away. I could see kids thinking, like, oh, there's nothing more to create, no new ideas.
That's interesting.
Because, like, the AI knows how to do it already and they're so comfortable. We're like, they actually don't even get inspired to kind of create something um, new. Might be different with art, but like original thought on stuff.
Or that becomes like your differentiator or like your value prop there of like, you are original thinker. So like you can stand out from the crowd. But that is really interesting. Like, is there a point where AI just does, it's so good at doing everything and people like younger generation isn't necessarily conditioned or taught to figure things out and be resourceful, where you're just so reliant on this tool to give you an output and tell you how to do it or tell you what to do? Does that then like atrophy resourcefulness or critical thinking? I feel like I don't know. Who
It
knows?
kind
But that's a really
of
interesting
we talked, I
concept.
think, a couple podcasts ago where like maybe the education system changes that it kind of goes into this as well. So
Yep.
maybe you have to
Yep.
go into that critical thinking stage as well. So there you go, full circle. We got there.
I do think too, the whole like AI content and stuff, like I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see how like this all pans out because if you think about it before AI too, I kind of feel like we were going down that path where like people figured out, hey, build a blog because it's a way to produce content, and then naturally a lot of blogs turned into like top 10 ways to do this or 6 best things that you need to like. So it's not like that was the same thing where there was an original thought, but it almost felt like naturally there's going to be some best practices that get through the industry that everybody picks up on and kind of does. Like I'm assuming you could probably go to name a given vertical and check out, 5 of the top players in that vertical and look at their blogs, and they're probably all producing like pretty much the same content there. So like there's kind of like something there's a little bit of that currently going on, or at least pre-AI going on, that I feel like AI is only just going to take that to the absolute next level there.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's where some of these algorithm updates more recently try to address that kind of bullshit blogs. But I also do say, like, man, from a content strategy perspective, like purely SEO, most of the time your blog traffic, if you're producing the content that we're talking about here, it'll bring traffic, but not conversions.
Yep.
It's like that very high level traffic. Maybe you can hit them up on a remarketing campaign, et cetera, and introduce them to the brand itself. There's a lot of other things you should be focusing on before creating all that blog content. But to your point, a lot of it was a lot of just like kind of spam creation. They were figuring out how to create content at mass for years. And the quality was not the best. That's where Google wants to see like more personal perception on things. They just sniped the shit out of Forbes because Forbes had like a couple subdomains. I think that was all like product reviews. You would search anything and Forbes would show up. So it's called like parasite SEO. So you basically take the authority of the main website and you create like a subsection. It was all like affiliate posts. And they finally got spanked by Google for it because it's like they know how vulnerable it is. Because you get to a certain point of a brand and authority where you literally could put up whatever content you want, and more than likely you're going to rank for it, especially if it's on a topic theme. And it's like, hey, if you're the business person there trying to like, hey, how do I make more revenue? Hey, I got this affiliate program. I write an article about the best credit cards or the best watches or the best shoes. I throw a couple affiliate links in there. Why wouldn't you do that? It's like Google's dumb. Like, I know. So, yeah. But maybe it goes back to the whole internet theory, because that's kind of right there, right? It's the manipulation of algorithms to boost search results to manipulate customers or revenue. So
no doubt. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how this all plays out. But it is crazy just to think about like the internet in general, of like how it just continues to grow. Like even just like wrapping your mind around like what even is that is fascinating. But I know we talked about before with the whole like advent in AI, like, is there some like AI incorporated into Google's crawling system and nobody even knows how that works now? And that's why some search results have gotten poorer. But we've also made the point too of like, dude, if anything, the job of crawling sites has only gotten significantly more difficult. So maybe it's more like a crawling issue on Google's end as opposed to like anything else there. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how all this plays out nonetheless here.
Yeah, there's definitely some themes that we always consistently talk about or come back to, and AI is definitely one of them, and the internet, and that's how it evolves. Doubt. So we'll see where this goes.
I think maybe one thing that's kind of, I don't know, like reassuring or whatever, not that I'm like a fan of like Google generating more profits at all times here, but like their business continues to grow, advertisers continue to invest in the space, and it still does drive results for clients. So if you are an agency owner out there or a business and you're relying on Google Ads, like it still can produce. Now, there's a lot of sketchy stuff in the platform that we've talked about on the show here, like some hidden settings to be aware of and some stuff where, Google does try and squeeze out as much revenue as possible, but it still does work. And LLMs have been out for, crazy to say, going on like 2 years now, and we haven't seen, the nightmare scenario where like your ads are done, you're out for an acquisition channel. So I think that's at least somewhat positive here. And I feel like the trend's kind of been more, there's still use case for search and there's still use case for LLMs, and they're kind of a little bit separate there. So search and search advertising still affects.
Yeah, no, as soon as I get like so down on it, I'm like, oh man, this doesn't work. Then I see it work for a client, and then especially when you see it work for yourself in your own business, you're like, God damn it, it works. So it's like being
still works.
So I relaunched I launched a new campaign focusing on a specific niche that we want to go for, and super tight keywords. I'm talking, I got 2 keywords, exact and broad. It's almost 1 keyword the way that it's set up. You could probably do it. So it's not exact, exact and phrase. I'm only getting, and I've got the targeting locked super tight, like US only, desktop only. I'm getting like maybe 13, 14 impressions a day. Maybe it was only 5 or 6 at the time. And sure enough, dude, I got a 1 click to the website and 1 very legitimate lead.
Nice.
For $5.
Nice.
I'm like, okay, this does work. I mean, it isn't being so cheap or that like that. But even if it was on the other side, it would be probably, astronomically more expensive. But I'm like, did it really come through that? Like, oh shit, okay, this does still work. Okay.
That's so good.
So I was like, all right, that felt great to do. And it just kind of brings you back like, all right, that makes sense to go after that. So we'll expand it. That's actually an opportunity that if it does come from something, I do need to talk to you a little bit more
Nice.
about it. So, but it's just one of those things where it's like, God damn it, this, it still works, you know?
I think the thing that's been tough is just they've added in so much nonsense to the platform where it has become, you really have to be as tight as possible for it to work.
I thought, I'm being too crazy tinfoil hat, too conservative, too tight on this, but I'm like trying to be just like thinking of this like logically.
Yeah.
Of like, this is all I want to bid on. This is all I want to get in front of people. Please just do this and let's see what happens. And I was only getting a handful of impressions. And then like the one day I started getting clicks, I think I had 2 clicks. One was not really relevant. And the one was relevant and then converted it into a lead. So I'm like,
that's so sick.
I was like, okay, that it does work. It's just, the amount, I don't know. We'll see how fast we can push that. But,
well, I'll tell you what, if you've run an agency, I don't know if there's a better feeling in the world than a legitimate form submission pulled through on your website. That is the sickest feeling in the world right there. And especially like, it's so good. You get like an email notification, that subject line, like submit lead form or like whatever that is. Literally the best feeling in the world when you see that come through and like, wow, this is a legit lead, legit company, legit email, nothing better.
Yeah, it almost surprised you. Like, wait, is this a real person? You pull up their website, it is. Are they a LinkedIn profile? Oh, they're on LinkedIn. Okay, great. They actually give a phone number too. Okay, great. Did they reply back? They reply back. Oh, they booked a meeting? Oh, dude. All right. It's on. It's the best feeling in the world. It really is. It turned my day. I think it was on Tuesday that happened. It was like late in the day on the work day. And I was like, oh, dude, it came through. And then even during the call, because I tracked it down the next day, because that's the one thing that sucks on most platforms. You can't do it the same day of when that conversion came in. You got to look backwards and do it. GA had some bad attribution, but it did have it to the channel, but the wrong campaign, which is weird. And GA is not real time by any means, right? GA Force especially. And so I did track it down in the campaign and eventually figured out. So when we had a call with him the next day, I actually dropped as part as a conviction of like, hey, you want to do ads? Well, that's how you came through. And she was like, oh, I think that's right. I'm like, yeah, it worked.
Seriously?
Yeah. She was surprised that she's like, oh, wait, I think I did that. I'm like, oh, yeah. I'm like, yeah, we knew how you came through. So thank you.
That's so good.
Yeah. It's a great feeling. So, but there's a great feeling too when you get a call from one of your referral partners like, hey, I got this opportunity for you. You're like, oh, it's a referral. That's going to be the easiest, not the easiest, but it's way easier than a cold lead,
Best thing in the world there is the referral and the like, not a done deal, but like highest intent possible, like they're looking for what you got.
Yeah, no, it's interesting too, because we're like, oh man, we should probably send them a couple case studies and like, how do we build case studies quickly, our own? So we actually, since we have a listing on Clutch, with actual client reviews, they do have a feature. I think it's only for paid accounts, which we have a paid account now. You can easily take one of your reviews and turn it into a case study. And so it's interesting because it's not branded the best, like as your own personal, but it's like a third party. So I wonder if it has more weight when we send it across. Cool. Like, hey, here's 3 case studies. It's from a third independent. They call these people and actually talk to them. And they're vetted like reviews. They actually need to have verification that you've worked with the person before they give you the review. So I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. We're kind of giving them a third party look at, a case study rather than one that we've doctored up. You're only going to send them the good ones. But because maybe from a third party branding, maybe it's better from a credibility standpoint. I don't know. I'll let you know how it turns out.
Cool. That's so sick. One last thing that I want to know, because I know we're getting up on time here. If you're still listening at this point in time, much appreciated. This is sick that you're still listening this far into the episode. Wanted to at least mention trying to get on a posting schedule here. So like, as it's been, Steve will post like our YouTube shorts. I'll post a full interview or the full podcast. And it's usually just been like one a week. And like whenever it gets posted, usually towards like the second half of the week. So moving forward, Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern, That's going to be the pod drop time. So Thursdays, 1 p.m. Eastern. I've heard from a couple different podcasters out there that if you get into an upload schedule, YouTube really, really likes that. So I don't know. We'll see. I will say we have seen our views grow over time here on YouTube, and like we're consistently getting views on the actual episodes, which is so cool to see. And so just wanted to mention that. And yeah, if you're listening here, Thursdays 1 p.m. Eastern, and then we'll report if there's any like upticks in traffic or whatever. But yeah, that's going to be the kind of schedule moving forward here. The other thing that I will say is I won't shout his name out now, but I'll see maybe if we could bring him on the episode if he wants to come on here. He has like this Disney account that he grew over the past year or so, and actually the point now where he's getting like sponsorships and like he's got like a free travel bag from a company to give him a shout out and like get some other stuff from like Disney and like some actual stuff. But we were having a conversation and he mentioned something that I thought was interesting, was like his main avenue is Instagram. He's talking about like growing an audience, of how you need to be consistent over time with it, because the platform is essentially like testing, putting your content in front of an audience to figure out if they're engaged with it or not. And the more and more reps you get there, the better they will figure out who your audience is and what audience they should place that video in front of. So I was like, dude, it's interesting because on our shorts, we'll see some where they'll cap at 400. He's like, yeah, dude, because it's like that 400 is kind of like a test group. And then you'll probably eventually get to another level and then to another level. So I say all that to say, we're going to have like a consistent posting schedule moving forward, and we'll see over time how things grow. But it's interesting because people always say post consistently, and you kind of think like you're just doing it just to, have time and market, but it's really for that algorithm to figure out who messes with your content and engages with it, to then have a better idea of who to put it in front of moving forward. And then your audience grows because of that. So I don't know. I thought that was an interesting to tie to.
That's super really interesting. Because yeah, it's like the inverse of when you're doing ads and they will try to find your audience based on interaction, but like organically, right? It's like you get another try. Here it is. Last time we did this. Because if you think about it, what's the incentive of putting your content in front of the right people? That's more time on platform, right? Yep. More time on platform equals more CPMs to ads, which means more clicks to ads, which means more money. So I could see that being the case. And that is really fascinating, because how else are they going to know how to find your audience? Sure, you tag it and it's got content, but there's going to be a lot more behavioral signals that they know
exactly
that they could put in front of your audience. And is your content worthy enough to be put in front of them?
Yep.
That's really
it's super cool. I thought I was like, oh, that makes total sense, because I've always thought of like posting content, whether like, video or organic post, that you just need to be consistent, because the more consistent you are, like, I don't know, it's just,
dude, let's get this guy on. I'd love
time.
to talk to something like this. This is like a whole new avenue I think people would be really interested in.
Cool. All right, I'll see if he wants to join. But yeah, I thought that was worthy of sharing. It makes total sense there.
Hanger at the end there, Trevor. Way to go.
Yeah, we'll leave it there. Cool. Well, like I said, Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Also, if you're listening at this point, drop a comment on one of our YouTube videos there. Let us know
you're alive.
What you think here. Yeah, let us know. All right, y'all. All right. It's been episode 34 in the books here.
Is it 34 or is it? No, dude, it's 35.
All right, 35. I misspoke. This 35. Yeah, 35 in the books here.
I only know because you uploaded the podcast to the YouTube channel today at 1 p.m. Eastern, right? Is that the time?
I had it scheduled there. Yep, that thing went live nice. Yep.
So this is 35.
Yes, sir. All right, we'll call it there. Thanks, y'all.